Hello everyone, happy Saturday. Welcome back to the Saturday Anything Goes series where we always have some fun. You never know what project I'm going to make. And today it's a bag. So I saw Crafty Caroline on YouTube. It has a wonderful video on how to make these bags. And I would say this is a medium-sized bag. It's overall 3 inches by 6 inches tall. And so it's 3 inches deep, 6 inches tall, and 6 inches wide. And it takes up 2 sheets, 2 full sheets of designer series paper. Or if you wanted to use cardstock and then lay designer series papers on it in panels, it would take 2 of the 12 by 12 of the cardstock. I did use, when making this, the Petal Palette designer series paper because it's really heavyweight, it's thick. And that allowed me to cut out one step that Caroline does. And when we get to that part, I'll go ahead and talk about that. But it's a very sturdy bag. And so it's great for packing some goodies into. Maybe you want to gift someone with something. Put a little bit of tissue paper in the top of this and go to town on it. And I did put ribbon handles on it so it's easy to pick up and carry. And I did my ties on the inside a little bit different because I found that if I try to tie knots, a double knot in the ribbon and just poke it through holes, that gave a lot of wear and tear on the holes. And I didn't want to run the risk of it pulling through, as with many store-bought gift bags that you get. So I just went ahead and to reduce the stress on the ribbon, I just tied both ends together in the middle. And when you put tissue paper in there, they disappear, so you don't even see them. All right, so this is the bag I made last night. It's again, I used the Petal Palette beautiful designer series paper that will be retiring when the new catalog comes out. And I did splurge and use a new stamp that we have that's called Statement of the Heart, because I just think it's beautiful to love what we do and share what we love as we help others enjoy creativity and worthwhile accomplishments. In this, we make a difference. So that really spoke to me. And I stamped that on a label that is in the Share What You Love Embellishments kit, also new in the catalog coming out in June. And then I die cut some silver flowers from foil with dies from Petal Palette. All right, but you've already seen this one. What do you say we make it in a different designer series paper? I thought you might like that. So let me bring it in. I'm going to be using new designer series paper coming out in June. I just love this. It's from the Share What You Love designer series paper, and it is heavy. Listen to this. Heavy, heavy, heavy paper. So it really lends itself well to 3D projects. The other thing I love about it, there isn't a design in this pack that isn't gorgeous. And the back sides perfectly coordinate with the front sides. So for a fold over bag like this paper is going to be perfect. All right. I did want to just bring in, and those of you who watched my unboxing video that I did last week or the week before, I did go through this paper, but I wanted to show you the different combinations you can get. So I'm going to pull these out, and they're the same exact sheet of paper. One is the front side, one is the back. Look at that. Perfect. Again, front side, back side. That's really pretty. Here's another lovely little pattern that the back side coordinates well with. This I absolutely love. And I'm not typically a brown kind of a girl, but pair it with the green and the other color we have in here, and I don't know if that's rich raspberry or not. I'd have to check that. But it goes so well together. And then the last one, and look at all the foiling on this one. Just beautiful. And it matches, the backside is crumb cake pattern. So there isn't a single one of these designs in this paper pack that I wouldn't gladly put together in a box. But I did my eeny, meeny, miny, mo and decided to go with this one. The colors in this are mint macaron, rich razzleberry, grapefruit grove, a new color that you'll see, and so saffron and crumb cake. And the floral design is gorgeous, but the backside is this beautiful writing. And what these are the names of flowers. So again, they've just paid wonderful attention to making sure that the paper's coordinated well. And this is really easy to make. I'm going to bring in my scoreboard, try to do this without hitting the camera. And I know you're not going to be able to see everything, but I'll pull it down so you can at least see the measurements I'm using at the top. We're going to score and fold both papers exactly the same. So it's pretty easy. There are only two measurements you need to remember, 2 inches and 3 inches. For the fold over, so if this is the front of our bag, and we're going to fold over so you can see the back design like this, we certainly would not want to make our first score, our fold over score line here, because the paper would be going sideways. So the important thing to remember, if you have directional paper, you want the direction over here on the left hand side, not up and down, but left to right here. So I've got my words running down instead of across. I'm going to flip it back over now that I know which way it is, because this is the side I want to score on. Take my stylus, and this I'm going to score at 2 inches. So there's my 2-inch mark all the way down. Then you're simply going to rotate it 90 degrees, and the rest of the measurements for the other 3 sides are 3 inches. So really easy to remember what the measurements are for this. And again, this is 12 by 12 paper. So 4 score lines is all I need to make. Now I'm going to bring in the other piece of paper, and I'm going to do exactly the same thing. So I check to make sure that my direction is running up and down. Flip it over to the front side. This is going to be 2 inches. And then the rest of these are going to be 3 inches. One more. And that is it for our scoring. So I'll put the scoreboard away. And now let's get in here. And we want to make sure when we're doing our cuts that our 2-inch is at the top. So be sure and look at your score lines just to make sure. Another way is we know that the top pulls down. I can see it better on this side. So here's my 2-inch line right there. The bottom is a 3-inch. All right. And I'm going to go ahead and fold this over. And this paper is so thick, and I kind of have to help it a little bit. And just make sure that my edges line up. Take my bone folder and crease it down. And you want to do your fold over before we do anything else, because we're going to actually attach this down to make sure it doesn't pop up. So when we do our sides, we don't have to worry about it popping loose. So I folded that. Now I'm going to go ahead and fold the rest of, to do it from this side, fold the rest of the score lines. And again, just take it slow. If you have really thick paper, you want to make sure you don't miss that score line when you're folding. So we have that one. Just barely see my score line there. Just help it over. And here I want to make sure the top is lined up. And then give it a good burnish with your bone folder. Okay, and we're going to do that for both sides. So find my 2-inch side here, which is right here. So I'll fold that down. Making sure I line it up and give it a good burnish. You want sharp, crisp edges. And then I'll go ahead and do the rest of the folds. So I've got that one. And I guess I need to fold the bottoms, don't I? I missed it on the other one, so I'll bring it back in and do it in just a second. Now, I like to do my burnishing before I adhere that top piece down, just to make sure I get the creases in the same spots. Okay, now I'll do this one. So we need a bottom to our bag. And I also like to do my folding and burnishing before I do any cutting, because that helps me to better see where my score lines are. So let me bring this one back in and just fold the bottom of it. And there you have it. All right. So our box is going to look like that for our bag. Now, you do make a couple of cuts in this. And both sides are not the same. So you'll want to be sure that you take it slowly. On this piece, I'm going to cut away this square, and I'm going to cut away this square. So let me just go ahead and actually I want my long scissors for this. So I'm cutting away both of those pieces. Trying to take out my score line so I don't get a bunch of bumpiness. I think I'll do it from this side. It's a little bit easier to see, sort of. Come on. On this pattern paper, it sometimes can be a little difficult to see exactly where your score lines are. Just go back and give them another little fold and burnish. So I'll cut up this one next. You want to make sure you go all the way up to that 3-inch score line. And then we'll just snip that off. And that's all we do for this one piece. All right, so now you can even better see how it's going to come together. And this will be the front of our box. So since I did that one that way, what do I do with this guy? Well, the only difference is we're still going to cut up these two score lines on either end, but we're not going to remove the pieces. So we're only making one cut up to that 3-inch score line from the bottom, because we'll need these flaps to form the bottom of our box. Make sure I get that all the way up. And that is all the cutting. So there's the bottoms. I know it's kind of hard to see, but on this one, we remove the 2 end pieces. On this one, we simply cut up to the score line for the end pieces. And now we get to go ahead and start assembling our box. So this is going to be the inside part, because we're going to be gluing these end pieces to the bottom, just like that. Okay, and then we'll come back with this. Actually, you know what, guys? Sorry. I'm going to do it this way. Yep. Almost got that wrong. So your 2 flaps go inside the box. All right. So what we're going to do is, let me move this out of the way. We're going to put glue here and here. You can certainly use fast fuse. You can use tear and tape, whatever you're comfortable with. I like the extra wiggle room that using this multi-purpose liquid glue gives me. And I'm going to use a goodly amount, but I don't want it glopping out so that we don't want a sticky inside of our bag. But I do want to make sure I get good coverage so everything sticks down nicely. Okay, just like that. And now I'm going to do this one at a time. So I'm going to pull this up, and you want to match up the outside edges. Oop, that was kind of close, wasn't it? So make sure you're matching up so the outside edges are flush. So we'll do it for that one, and then come right back and do it for this one, making sure that our outside edges are flush. All right, and there we have the basics of our box. Then, let me turn this around. What's going to happen is this flap on the bottom is going to slide in just like that. And then we're going to pull the sides around and glue them down. So that's going to form our box. But before I do, and I always forget this, I did want to attach this down. Now I've already glued this, but not the end of the world, because I'm just going to use some glue dots. You can use your fast fuse there. You can even use temporary adhesive. You don't need anything terribly strong for that, because all it's serving to do is just hold the edges down. So I think I'll put one right here and maybe one in the middle. Come on, let go. Right down here. So just a couple, and press them down. Now, if you want to close that gap there, again, just take a glue dot or your fast fuse, whatever you want to use, and just slide it in there, and that will hold that closed. Easy breezy. So let's do the same thing on this side. So I'll put one of them here. And I'm putting them kind of close to the edge. And we'll put one down here. Tuck that down. And just for good measure, I'll put one more right here to keep it from gapping open. All right. Now, since I haven't glued this other one, I can go ahead, and before I assemble it, I'm just going to run, and in this case I'm using snail, so I'm just going to run a line of snail. I can get it to work. Come on, there we go. And again, this is doing nothing more than making sure that it doesn't pop open. So I'll do some on the sides as well. And then just stick it down. So probably easier to do it that way than with the glue dots. But if you forget like me, it's not the end of the world. Okay, let's finish assembling our box. So as I mentioned, this is going to sit right inside, and then these come around like that. So we need to go ahead and glue, and you can glue this side of the flap. I actually like gluing down to the bottom of the box. That way I know it's going to have contact in all four corners. Now remember, I told you at the beginning that there was an extra step that Caroline did with hers. If you're using thinner DSP or cardstock, you'll want to reinforce the bottom, and to do that, just cut a piece of cardstock slightly smaller than 3 inches by 6 inches and glue it in to help reinforce that bottom. Now I've got a little sticking out here, so before I glue that down, I'm going to take care of this little bit here. I must not have gotten it all the way in. I don't know if you can see that or not, but see how I have a little bit hanging over on this one? No worries, just go in and trim it up. Of course, it helps if you do it before you put the glue on. Come on, get that last little bit down. There we go. And I apologize, this is so close to the camera, guys, but this box, like I said, is pretty big. All right. Now what I can do is just slide my flap in. Should be nice and tacky in there. And you do want to make sure you slide it all the way in, she says. Come on. Probably easier to do if I have this touching. There we go. So you want to slide it all the way in there and then press it down. Making sure you want these edges to be flush. Come on, baby, slide. Thank you, thank you. That's why I love my liquid glue, folks. All right, now my edges are flush. I can go ahead and I'm going to give this a good press with my bone folder. I see right there I had a little sticking up. So just make sure you get that all stuck down. And now all that's left to do is my flaps. And I wonder if I can, I think I'm going to do it like this just because you see how I have this seam here? I want to make sure that the front of my box doesn't have any seams. So that's what I'm going to do. So I'll take and use my liquid glue here again. And you want to put it up here at the top too, even though that's folded over and is so pretty. We have to make sure that it sticks down. And I'm probably going to, while I'm at it, glue this side too, but I'm going to do it off camera because I have to pull it way high to get to it. All right. As I get glue all over me. And then I'm going to slide my flaps in, close it down, making sure that your edges are lining up. So that one lines up fine. And that lines up fine. Just like that. And there is our box. And I may come back and put a few more glue dots right there. I didn't take the glue all the way up to the edge because I didn't want it seeping over. But it's that simple. Or you could just take and put a little bead of glue there. Just try not to, see what I mean? I'm always over generous with the glue. But I'll just go ahead and hold that closed for a moment. You could also take a clothespin or a clip to that and let it sit for a minute. Sticky, sticky. But that is the framework of our box. Easy breezy. All right, now we get to the fun part, which is decorating it. And let me just grab a tissue real quick to wipe this glue off my fingers. So with the other one, as I mentioned, I use that statement of the heart sentiment. And I think I'm going to go ahead and use it on this one as well. But instead of doing the square, I thought I'd go ahead and use ovals. To me, this box is not quite so tailored as the other one. It's a little more free form. So I thought that using ovals on it would be really pretty. And so I've got them already cut. I used the stitched shapes, largest oval, and then I used the scalloped or the layering ovals, one of the second to the largest of the scalloped ones. I've got my stamp already mounted, and that paper's pretty busy, so I thought it needed a strong ink color. And I certainly could have used black or even Tranquil Tide, but the Tranquil Tide was just a little too green for me with all the mint macaron going on here. So I thought I would go ahead and use the Rich Razzleberry. It's in the designer series paper, so it will match well. Just going to ink that up. Make sure I have a goodly amount of ink on it, but not too much. And make sure I have it right side up, although it really doesn't matter with this since I could just turn it around. And then I'm going to, and you guys are in the way, so I have to pull this down. Make sure I have that straight. And drop it down. And then just press it down for a second or two. I have a foam mat underneath this, so that gives me the extra little squishiness I need for photopolymer stamp. And there we have it. See if I can pick it up without smudging it. So there is our sentiment. Just beautiful. I absolutely love how some of it is in script while the rest of it is in like typewriter font. All right, so that's all the stamping we're going to do. I will put my pad away. So excited for the new stamp pads to come out. I think they're just going to be great. And I'm going to continue to let that dry before I mount it to the mat, because now what I want to do is I want to punch my holes so that we can run our ribbon through. And I'll punch it on both sides, and I'll bet you I forgot to bring my paper punch. Hang on just a sec, guys. I need to go grab it. So talk amongst yourselves. I'll give you a topic: baked bread. Okay, punch found. That's the only disadvantage of shooting my videos in one room while my craft room is in the other. Someday I'll figure out how to do both in the same room. Okay, and with my punch, it's really easy. I'm going to, in this case, I've got words going across here, which helps me, but I'm going to stick my punch in as far as it will go. And I'm putting it in probably, what, 3/4 of an inch in from the side. If you want to do it closer, you certainly can. And then give it a good squeeze. And it's a perfect hole. So I'll just do the same on the other side. And then I'm going to turn it over and do the same thing here. And that way I know my holes are going to be fairly close to each other. Okay, so there we have it. Now, for ribbon, we have this beautiful ribbon coming out. Look at this. Because I signed up to be a display board stamper, I got a box of goodies to make some card samples for on stage. And they sent me this gorgeous, gorgeous ribbon, and I thought it would be perfect for this box. So be on the lookout for that in the new caddy when it comes out. And I'm not going to cut off a length, so I can't tell you exactly how long this is. I like to do it from, tie it on from the spool itself. That way I know I have enough. So I will just take and feed it through and pull it out, giving myself enough to where I can tie it together. Because remember, I didn't do just the knots over here. And then the reason I like to leave it on the spool is this. I always cut it way too short. So if I leave it on the spool, I can drape it down and I can see about how much I need. Now, if you want to do that and then pull it out and measure to do your other side, you certainly can do that. As a matter of fact, I'll do that right now. But my first one, I always do it off the spool. And that saves me from not cutting enough ribbon. I have a whole bowl full of ribbon pieces that just weren't quite long enough. Okay, so we'll go ahead and feed this through. And I love using the paper punch for those holes because they're nice and round and smooth and the ribbon just glides right in it. All right, so there we have it. I'm going to go ahead and just tie. And if you think that, you're going to have too much, just adjust it to the length that you want. And then you're going to tie it down. I like long handles on mine, so. And all I do is just tie a knot. And to get it tight, because if I keep pulling this way, it could start pulling this through. I actually hold both and pull on both sides. So I've got the tail and the ribbon itself. And if you pull them both at the same time, you'll get a nice crisp knot. And there we go. Now I can cut off what I don't need. So as you can see, very little waste by doing it on the spool. And if it makes you feel better, you can certainly tack that down with a glue dot to the inside to keep it from popping around. And why don't we just go ahead and do that? I think that's a capital idea. If I can find my glue dots, that is. There they are. So I'll just take a glue dot here and put it on the inside of the knot right there. And now I can pull this through all the way. And once it's flush against the box, I just give it a gentle press. And there's our first handle. Now we repeat the same on the other side. Big surprise, right? Feed it through. When you're feeding your ribbon through, straighten it out like I'm doing so that when you put it in the other side, you don't get a twisted ribbon. Or a twisted handle, I should say. Okie dokie, and let's go ahead and tie this in a knot. But if you do want to do the knotted technique where you're just feeding one end in and then tying a knot on that one end, I would suggest doing a triple knot because the double knots that I was doing were really wanting to force their way through. Okay, and then I'll take my glue dot, put it on the back. That's the back, Linda. Pull this through until it's resting against the box. And now I can trim my tails. And we are almost done with this. There's my two handles. Yay! And it looks really cute. All right, turn it around to the front. And now we're going to put our sentiment on. This should be dry now. Hope. Put that out of the way. And I'm going to glue it down to the mat. Again, using my multi-purpose liquid glue. Now, you certainly don't have to use ovals. You can use whatever sentiment shape you want. You can mat it or not mat it. You can even leave the sentiment completely off if you like and just put a little tag on one of the handles. But I thought this gave it a really pretty finishing touch. And then I'm going to put it right there. But you know, it looks a little naked. Even though it's got that rich razzleberry, I really want to separate it a little bit more from the DSP. And hi, Amy. Hi, Paula. Hi, Karen. Thanks for joining. I've just been in the throes of this and haven't been paying attention to who came on. What if we did just a little bit more of this Tranquil Tide ribbon? That helps set it off. But you know what? I want to do something even crazier. I just saw this technique the other day, and I've used it in the past, but I want to do it again. I'm going to take a piece of Terran tape that's not quite as long as the front. Where do I go? And I'm going to put it on the box, right about center. And I never get things completely straight, but you know, that's okay. It's handmade, right? We don't want it looking store-bought. Press that down. Come on. Okay. So I've got a thin strip. I don't know if you can see it there, but I have a thin strip of tape. And this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to lay this down, but I'm only going to attach a little bit of it. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring it over, and this is another reason I leave my ribbon on the spool, because I never know how much I'm going to use. And I'm just going to fold it back on itself and tack it down. And I think this ribbon is going to look really cute this way. And again, fold it over a little and tack it down. Now I'm only going to do 2 of those because obviously our sentiment is going to have to go there. So let me just tack that down and then come over, and I got room, so I'm going to tack it right to there. And then I'm going to repeat the process. I'm just going to go ahead and, rather than worrying about going a different way with it, because I was never very good at that. Let me see if I can cut this off and do it. Maybe that'll work. And what you could do is, instead of putting 2 full pieces of ribbon, one full piece of ribbon, you can do it in 2s, and maybe that's what I'll do. You'll understand what I mean in a minute. Okay. Now, I'm going to do the same thing on this side. So I want to start here, just towards the outside, fold it back on itself, and then because I have that strip of tape, it's going to hold. Do it one more time. And because this is ruffled ribbon, it kind of wants to get away from you a little bit, but it'll still look good. All right, and then stick the rest of it down and cut off any excess. It looks kind of wonky now, but give it just a second. You can press it from the bottom to make sure it's stuck well. Turn those up a little bit. Now when I put this in here, you see how that gives it, and I did, dadgummit, I just smudged my sentiment. Oh well. But what you do, and then I'm going to put this up on Dimensionals, and you can see those 2 little ruffles on either end just give it a really nice finished look. I don't know why that ink never wants to dry for me, but I can do another one and lay it down on top. I do want to attach this with Dimensionals since I put ribbon down there, and I want to make sure my Dimensionals run at the top and the bottom. That leaves the ribbon free in the center, so it doesn't get all wonky when I put this down. All right, so I got that. Okay, now I can take this and center it up and just press it down. And that is our box. Let me lift the camera up a little bit. It's going to be a little shaky, but I want to try and give you a better picture of it. So there we have it. Put some nice tissue paper in there, and you can slip any manner of gifts in to give to someone. All right, any questions about how the box went together, or I'll be sure and put the measurements in on my blog, so please do go out there, cardsbywinnie.wordpress.com. So all the measurements will be there, and I really recommend that you give this a try. It's easy to do. It looks a little intimidating the first time you do it, and to be honest, I just used plain old cardstock that wasn't even Stampin' Up to do my first one, just to make sure, but it goes together very, very quickly. All right, well, if there are no questions, I will let you all go. I want to thank you so much for taking time out of your Saturday. I know we were a little late doing ours tonight because we had an Inky Fingers team meeting, which was so much fun. So we'll resume next Saturday at the regular time of 3 o'clock. Bye-bye, y'all. Have a great rest of the weekend.